Welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely pumped you're here today. So I'm putting on my coach's hat for this one because we're diving into the ultimate playbook for cracking the CSIR NET Physical Sciences exam. If you're gunning for that junior research fellowship, the JRF, you know that hard work just isn't enough. You need a rock-solid, flawless game plan. We're going to look at the data, break down the syllabus, and completely revamp your prep strategy so you can step right into that exam hall with total confidence. Let's get into it.
Now, let me ask you a question, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself here. Are you sitting there grinding through endless stacks of previous year questions, checking the answer key, and then realizing your scores are just stuck? It's a hugely painful reality for a lot of dedicated students. See, they treat PYQs like a brute force numbers game. But here's the locker room truth. Simply solving questions without a real system doesn't build that deep conceptual muscle memory you actually need for advanced physics. If your scores are flatlining, it's not because you aren't trying hard enough. It's a flaw in your form. And today, we're fixing that form.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our playbook for today's session. First, the CSIR NET Challenge. Second, the high rank method. Third, topic cluster practice. Fourth, the mistake log technique. Fifth, avoiding common exam traps. And finally, number 6, your path to JRF.
All right, moving into part 1, the CSIR NET Challenge.
So, before we can actually win the game, we really have to understand the field we're playing on. The syllabus is massive, right? So a targeted approach isn't just a suggestion, it's absolutely mandatory. And this brilliantly illustrates why. Look at the recent exam data. Your heavy hitters, quantum mechanics, electromagnetic theory, and classical mechanics, these make up roughly 60 to 65% of the exam's entire weightage. You add mathematical physics into that mix, and you are literally looking at the core of the paper. You simply cannot afford to spread yourself too thin by treating every single topic in the syllabus equally. The data is telling us loud and clear, you've got to prioritize and build massive depth in these high-weightage topics. Which brings us to part 2, the high-rank method.
This is where we make a massive shift in our strategy. We are moving away from just practicing hard to practicing smart. The high rank method is a proven 3-step strategy, and its whole purpose is to convert your daily practice into visible, recognizable patterns. Because cracking the JRF isn't just about grinding out the math, it's all about pattern recognition. When you sit down for Part B, and especially for that advanced physics in Part C, you literally need to see the matrix. You need consistent accuracy growth, and honestly, that only comes from having a structured framework. So here are the 3 exact phases of your new training regimen. First up, topic clusters. Second, the mistake log. And third, mixed mocks. I absolutely love using the rule of 3 because it makes things so sticky and easy to remember. If you follow these 3 steps in this exact order, I promise your prep is going to transform from totally chaotic to completely dialed in. Let's break down exactly how you execute that first drill.
Moving on to part 3, topic cluster practice.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it's going to completely change the way you approach those huge stacks of previous year questions sitting on your desk. There's a really clear distinction between types of practice. Most students just default to year-wise practice right out of the gate. They print out the June 2022 paper and just try to sell the whole thing. But year-wise practice is for exam simulation. It's strictly testing your time strategy. If you're in the early or middle stages of your prep, you have to use topic-wise practice. By clustering your practice by topic, you're building concept mastery. And that is the only way to build the really profound, deep knowledge you're going to need to conquer Part C. So the game plan here is super simple. Master your unit clusters first. Let's take quantum mechanics, for example. Go solve every single QM question from the last 11 years before you even glance at another subject. By doing this, you're going to start seeing these repeated subtopic patterns, things like perturbation theory or angular momentum coupling. They'll literally just jump out at you. You're building conceptual muscle memory by going incredibly deep into one single area, rather than doing a shallow, scattered run through a mixed paper. Remember, you only simulate the full 180-minute exam after you've totally mastered the clusters.
Let's get into part 4, the mistake log technique.
Okay, we are now transitioning into what is easily the most critical habit in your entire training regimen. This is all about diagnosing your errors, rather than just checking the answer key and moving on. So the crucial point is this: you have to log exactly why you got a question wrong. Just saying, I got it wrong, isn't a diagnosis. Was it a concept gap, an algebra error? Did you mess up the boundary limits? Or was it unit neglect? Listen to this. Doing a quick dimensional check can instantly eliminate wrong options in Part B in like 5 seconds flat. If a frequency formula doesn't actually have the units of inverse seconds, cross it out immediately. Track these specific error types, and you're going to see exactly where all your points are leaking out.
And that brings us to the golden rule of the mistake log. 7. You have to wait exactly 7 days before you reattempt a logged mistake, and you have to do it without looking at the solutions. If you just look at the solution and try it again 5 minutes later, you aren't actually learning the physics, right? You're just memorizing the ink on the page. You got to give your brain 7 days to forget the solution so it's actively forced to reconstruct the method. I'm telling you, this is the single most effective revision technique you can possibly deploy.
All right, moving to part 5, avoiding common exam traps.
Let's move to and see how this builds into your game day execution. The examiners for this test are incredibly smart, and they set up very specific landmines in Part B and Part C. We need to know exactly where they are. First up, sign errors. Missing a minus sign in a commutator will completely ruin you. Remember, the commutator of A and A dagger is +1, but A dagger in A is -1. Always double-check it. Second, symmetry oversight. Please don't do a 3-page integration if the parity of the operator is odd. It just vanishes. You gotta exploit that symmetry. Third, boundary conditions. Keep in mind that the derivative of a wave function is only continuous if the potential is finite. If it's an infinite wall, well, that rule goes right out the window. And finally, over-attempting Part C. Don't try to answer every single thing. High certainty is your absolute best friend here.
Which leads us nicely into Part 6, your path to JRF. Let's bring this playbook to a close and summarize all this tactical advice into your final game day mindset. Look, you have a finite amount of time, 180 minutes. Part A, which is the general aptitude section, should really just be treated as a 10 to 15-minute warm-up. Use quick logic, use elimination. Do not let Part A eat into your heavy lifting time. You have to ruthlessly protect your time for Part C, because that is where the deep reasoning and advanced physics will actually secure your fellowship.
I want you to literally burn this quote into your mind. Accuracy multiplied by marks beats random attempts. Guessing in Part C will destroy your score. Why? Because Part C carries a massive negative marking penalty of -1.25 marks for every single wrong answer. It's a highly, highly punitive section. Attempting fewer questions with near absolute certainty is going to yield a much higher score than just randomly guessing across a wide range of topics. Remember, accuracy wins championships. So, the playbook is officially in your hands. You know the weightage, you know how to cluster your topics, you know how to leverage that 7-day mistake log, and you know exactly what traps the examiners are waiting to spring on you. The only question left is, are you ready to fix your form, execute the high rank method, and claim your JRF spot? Go out there, get to work, and make it happen. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and I will see you next time.